All right, let's get into a case that every law student absolutely needs to have in their back pocket. Arun Kumar Agarwal versus Radha Arun. Now, on the surface, this looks like a straightforward family custody dispute. But if you dig just a little deeper, you'll find it's a total masterclass in procedural law. It answers a really critical question about how, and more importantly, when, our courts should handle an accusation of lying under oath. So, here's the big question this whole thing boils down to. In the middle of a really heated trial, when does a disputed statement officially become a lie that you can prosecute? And maybe even more important for legal strategy, when is the right time for a court to even start looking into that question? Let's break down exactly how the court solved this procedural puzzle. Okay, here's how we're going to tackle this, just like a proper case brief. First, we'll lay out the facts, the setup. Then, we'll pinpoint the core legal conflict. After that, we'll dive into the arguments from both sides, analyze the court's brilliant reasoning, and finally, we'll unpack the huge precedent this case set. So let's set the stage. Every major legal principle starts with a real-life human story, and this one, like so many others, begins with a family in conflict. So the people involved here are Arun Kumar Agarwal, the husband, and Radha Arun, the wife, who was an IRS officer. The whole thing started with a petition from the wife for the custody of their 2 kids. She was trying to get the court to declare the husband an unfit guardian. And this messy matrimonial dispute is the backdrop for the huge legal fight that came next. Now, the timeline here is super important, so pay close attention. In December 1999, the wife files for custody. Just a few days later, the husband hits back with an application under Section 340 of the Criminal Procedure Code, claiming she committed perjury. But the family court takes one look at it and says no, rejecting it because it was premature. That one single word, premature, is the spark that lights the fire for this entire case. And that leads us right into the heart of the conflict. Was the family court right to do that? Can a claim of perjury actually be premature? Before we answer that, let's make sure we're all on the same page with the legal definitions. First things first, what exactly is perjury? Well, under Section 191 of the Indian Penal Code, it's not just about getting a fact wrong. It's about intentionally giving false evidence. You have to be making a false statement under oath on purpose. That word intentionally is everything. The husband was basically accusing his wife of knowingly lying about his character to get a leg up in the custody battle. So how do you even bring this up in court? Well, that's where Section 340 of the CrPC comes in. And the key phrase here is that it gives the court the power to act only when it thinks it's expedient in the interests of justice. This isn't something the court has to do. It's a discretionary power. The court has to be convinced that starting a perjury investigation is actually necessary for justice to be served. Okay, so this boils everything down to one simple question of timing. When is it expedient for the court to act? Should a judge halt the trial right in the middle to go investigate a claim that someone is lying? Or should they wait? Wait until all the evidence is in and the main case has been decided. This is the exact question the Karnataka High Court had to figure out. All right, let's step into the courtroom. You can just imagine the scene. On one side, you have the petitioner, the husband, demanding the court do something right now about the alleged perjury. And on the other side, you have the respondent, the wife, arguing that his application is just fundamentally wrong from a procedural standpoint. The husband's lawyer argues with a sense of urgency. They're saying, look, this is an abuse of the court's process, and it has to be stopped in its tracks. If we wait, we're just letting the lie continue and potentially influence the outcome. But the wife's lawyer has a powerful comeback. How can you call it a lie when you haven't even heard all the evidence yet? The main case is still going on. They argue the application is, well, premature. The husband's side then frames it as a matter of his fundamental right to seek justice against these false statements. But the wife's team raises a huge procedural red flag, the risk of prejudice. And this is a brilliant argument. They say that if the judge makes a ruling on the perjury claim right now, he's basically prejudging the facts of the main custody case. The two issues are completely tangled together. Deciding one would absolutely bias the other. So you've got these really strong arguments on both sides. How did the Karnataka High Court, with Justice Muhammad Anwar on the bench, cut through this procedural knot? Let's get into the court's decisive reasoning. And here it is. This is the absolute key to the entire judgment. The court looked at what the alleged lies were actually about, the husband's character, his behavior, his fitness as a father, and it realized these weren't just side issues. These were the very facts being disputed in the custody case itself. The two proceedings were, as the court put it, integrally connected. The court's logic here is just so clean and methodical. Let's walk through it. Step 1. It saw the total overlap of facts. Step 2. It recognized the huge risk of prejudice. I mean, no judge could hold a mini-trial on the perjury claim without already forming an opinion on the main case. And so that led to Step 3. It established what it called the better practice. Just wait until the trial is finished. But the court didn't just stop there. It looked at the bigger picture, the why behind this rule. It explained that if you let people file these applications mid-trial, Section 340 could easily become a tool for harassment. It also pointed out that a court can't really judge if a statement is a lie until it has seen all the evidence. And finally, it's just about efficiency. It stops the court from getting bogged down in side quests that might not even matter by the end of the trial. So what does this all mean? What's the takeaway? Well, the court dismissed the husband's appeal, but in doing so, it created a really powerful and long-lasting legal precedent. Let's take a look at its legacy. This case gives us 3 crystal clear principles that, honestly, every litigator should have memorized. First, the timing principle. Perjury applications have to wait until after the main case is over. Second, prevention of prejudice. Courts have to stay away from these early inquiries to avoid messing up the main trial. And third, the post-trial assessment principle. The only right time to figure out if someone lied is after all the evidence is on the table. And don't think for a second that this is just some dusty old case. This ruling from 2001 is still good law today. It's a binding precedent in Karnataka, and it's cited as a key authority by courts all over India. It's a crucial safeguard that stops the law on perjury from being abused. You know, at the end of the day, this case offers such an elegant solution to a really tricky problem. By setting a clear rule on timing, the court made sure that the powerful tool of a perjury proceeding is used for what it's for, to protect the integrity of the justice system and not weaponized to harass someone during a lawsuit. It's a powerful reminder that in law, just like in life, timing can be everything.